Going live. We are live. Hey, this is Mark Giles. It's a Friday. I figure I'd take a few minutes out of my day to share some information with you about the home buying process. Today, we're going to be talking about appraisals. And just so you know, my commitment to educating people about home buying and the home buying process is strong. So I'm creating these tutorials that we'll be bringing to you on a regular basis. And just so you know, this is a home buy workshop, and it's presented by the Center for Home Ownership and Community Enterprise. It's a non-for-profit, non-governmental agency, totally dedicated. Mission is to improve our community by teaching you about real estate, mortgage finance, and the home ownership, business ownership, and to provide you with the information, action steps that you can implement right now so you can own your power, own your self-worth, and live a dignified, independent lifestyle. And once again, I'm Mark Giles. I'm committed to educating home buyers, realtors, real estate investors, business owners, and I'm a licensed mortgage loan originator. And I also have a insurance license, and I've been practicing since almost 20 years now. So originally from the Bronx, currently based in Westchester, New York. And like I said, I'm also a licensed agent, real estate agent. So I have a lot of knowledge to impart. And I spend most of my day answering questions to home buyers who are interested in buying homes and answering questions about the home buying process. So today, I'm going to be answering questions about the home appraisal process for home buyers. So please stick with me and we can learn some more. And I'm really excited to be here. If you have any questions, please feel free to chime in, whether you're going to text me or email, whatever we want to do it, or anytime. Okay. So let's talk about some of the questions. What is a home appraisal? How much does a home appraisal cost? What if my home appraisal comes in low? So if you're trying to buy a house and the appraisal comes in low, these are some of the questions we're going to be answering. And let's just dive on in. So number one, obviously, is what is a home appraisal? So the purpose of an appraisal, when you're buying a house, if you're buying a house, you want to know that the house that you're buying is worth what you're buying it for, right? You want to buy a house, you want a fair deal. So, and the bank that is lending you the money, they want you to get a fair deal because for them, it's an investment. It's a financial investment. And if they're making that investment, they want to know that they're going to get a return on their investment. So the house being worth what you're buying it for is a key element. And the house is the only thing that the bank has to hold as collateral. So they want to know it's worth what you're buying. And obviously you do too. So basically that is what a home appraisal is. Now, what is in a home appraisal? They're not just going to talk about the house itself. They're going to talk about the market value, right? The appraiser is going to look at the market value, the property condition, the characteristics of the neighborhood, the house size, the different amenities that the house has. Every house is different and different neighborhoods are different. So different houses will cost different based on those characteristics. Also, they're going to look at recent comparable sales. What that means is when we talk about comparable sales, that's a term that realtors use. It's a very popular term in the marketplace. When we're looking at comparables, we're looking at homes that have sold in the neighborhood, usually within a mile or two, within the last 3 to 6 months. Because if you're looking at homes that sold in the last 3 to 6 months, you get a good indication of what your house will sell. If it's a similar house, similar in size and characteristics and things, and it's sold in the last 3 months, chances are the house you're buying is going to be about that same value. And also comparables of what else is selling similar to the house you're buying. So we want to know if there's a house selling for $100,000 right next door to the one you're buying for $200,000 and it's the same exact house, why wouldn't you buy the cheaper house? Obviously you would. So the appraiser may not find that the house you're buying is worth $200,000. That's how you compare houses to each other. Some of the other items, sales history. That particular house, if it sold 6 months ago for $100,000, how is this being sold to you now for $200,000? That's going to have an impact on the value of your house. The estimated cost to rebuild a house is a heavy indicator as well. If you're selling the house and it costs $100,000 to build, and they're selling it to you for $50,000, that would mean you're getting a good discount. And of course, there's other legal information like the deed. You have the deed to prove who owns the house. You have the tax bills and all of that. Those things have a heavy impact on the value of your house as well. Okay, the cost to rebuild, and of course, rental income. Some houses come with rental income. Those houses that have rental income would be worth more than those houses that don't have rental income. So let's continue. How much does a home appraisal cost? If you're buying a house, the lender is willing to appraise the house, and the lender will appraise the house. But the cost of appraising the house, the lender is going to want you to take on that cost. So what we've seen in the marketplace, I'm in New York. You have New York. I do business in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. And typically appraisals for a one-family house will range between $400,000 and $600,000, depending on the size of the house. But there are different other items that will affect what the appraisal will cost you. And some of those items are the local market, the market that you're in. So you might find that a house in one neighborhood or one town will cost you a little more than another town because of those variable market characteristics that appraiser will charge more. Whether you're doing a rental comparable in addition to a regular appraisal. So for example, a two-family house may cost more money for you to appraise because the appraiser also has to tell you about the rentals that you should be expecting to get from owning from the two families. So he has to do more work. The uniqueness of the property, if the property has, if it's a larger house, for example, a mansion that's 10,000 square feet might cost more to appraise than a house that is only 2,000 square feet. So these are some of the things that the appraiser will take into account when they're charging their fees. Then, of course, you have the property type. You might have a mixed use versus a regular one-family house. So there's more information. A mixed use is one of those properties where the storefront is below and the apartment is upstairs. That's a different type of property. An appraiser may charge a different fee for that. We're going to have an appraiser join us on our next, when we do our next tutorial about appraisals. We'll have an appraiser come on and talk some more about it because we really want to educate you. That'll be in the next video. But right now, let's just continue along. And whether your house is in a rural area versus a urban area could make a difference. And so for example, if the appraiser cost is charging $500, he may tack on $100 to $200 based on the property size, unique property, limited sales in the area, things like that. So those are things to be aware of when you're buying a house and you are going to be required to get an appraisal. Every house you buy will have when you're getting a mortgage, the lender is going to require that you get an appraisal. Now, what if the appraisal comes in low? What do we do then? So if your appraisal comes in low, for some people, that is a big fear. And I've been doing this for 20 years now. And when we send an appraiser out to do an appraisal, sometimes it comes in low and you have different options. It doesn't mean the deal is over. If the appraisal comes in high, then that's good. But if it comes in low, we have some talking to do with the seller. Okay, once the appraiser has viewed and measured the home, compared the home to recent sales in the area, and prepared the report, remember he's done all of this work before he's decided that it's not worth what you're buying it for. Sometimes that figure may not meet your purchase price. So I've come up with about 5 options that you might have. You can lower the price to the appraised value. So if you're buying a house for $500,000 and the appraisal comes in for $450,000, let's say it doesn't have to be that extreme. Let's say the appraisal, you're buying it for $500,000 and it comes in for $495,000. You have the option to lower the appraised value and buy the house for $495,000 if the seller is willing to work with you. Second thing is the buyer can bring the difference between the price and the appraised value. So if you're buying the house for $500,000, it appraises for $495,000. The buyer can actually bring the extra $5,000 to the closing to make up for the gap. You can also lower the price somewhere between the price and the value. What that would mean is you would go half and half. We've seen that happen as well. So if the appraisal is coming in for 500 and if the price is 500 and the appraisal comes in for, let's say, 490, then you might go to the seller and say, hey, listen, I'll put in an extra 5,000. You lower an extra 5,000. I'll buy it for 495. That's a way you can negotiate with the seller. Another option is you can just go ahead and cancel that contract, right? Unfortunately, we want to buy houses. You're here to buy a house and the seller's here to sell a house. And by the time you got to the appraiser, a lot of work is going into this. You spend a lot of time doing a home inspection. You've been shopping for months. So you want a deal to happen because you found this house and you really love it. So oftentimes you will come to an agreement, but canceling the contract is another option. You can just cancel the contract and walk away. Now, if you're doing a refinance loan, so a refinance is, I'll have another video on that, but if you're doing a refinance loan and the appraisal comes in low, what you could do is you could do a renovation loan, right? So you might say, hey, I'm going to refinance my house, borrow $50,000 because I want to build an extension onto my home. And the appraiser says, well, your home is only worth $400,000. And the bank wants the house to be worth more because it's not as valued as high, and you need that money to do the extension on your house. You could get a renovation loan, and the renovation loan, you could actually borrow the money to put the extension on the house, knowing that after the extension is built onto the house is worth more money. It might bring your house up to, let's say, another $50,000. Now the lender's happy. He knows you're going to extend your home. It's going to be worth more, and they're more apt to lend you money on that house. All right. Hey, I like you guys. Thank you for the thumbs up. Appreciate that. If you could keep those thumbs up coming, I'd appreciate that. So let's continue. This is the Home Buyer Workshop. It's brought to you by the Center for Home Ownership and Community Enterprise. I'm Mark Giles, totally 100% dedicated to educating home buyers, real estate investors, as well as business owners, right? We got some great courses coming up, and we have our membership site, should be up and running by next week. Love if you could come and join that too as well. So how does the appraisal process work? Typically, a buyer's goal for the appraisal is you want the appraisal to come in as is. You want the value to come in for what you're buying it. Why? Because you're saying, hey, listen, I'll buy your house, but I want your house to be worth what I'm buying it for. That's what I call a fair deal. Okay. Okay, so sometimes when you're doing an appraisal, it's going to require repairs be done. Now, what that means is, especially I do a lot of government loans. All right, as a loan originator, I do a lot of government loans, FHA. And when FHA goes in the house, sometimes there's small things that need to be done, little things like a handrail might be missing from the staircase. It could be considered a hazard because it's unsafe. So the appraiser might request that you or somebody, he doesn't care who does it, but the appraiser might request that a handrail be put in. So if you're in contract to buy the house, a handrail needs to be put in. Who's going to put it in? We don't know. That has to be negotiated between you and the seller. If the seller has time and they have money and they don't mind, I'd say 6 out of 10 times the seller will just put the handrail up. But it could be a broken window. It could be a smoke alarm that's missing. It could be steps in front of the house that are cracked. Usually a hazardous environment that needs to be repaired before the government will provide the homeowner's insurance for you to purchase the house. So sometimes those repairs are required. Now, sometimes the buyer will pay for the repairs, sometimes the seller, but once again, that's negotiating. And in New York, you have an attorney, so you will go through your attorney and the realtor, the buyer's realtor, seller's realtor, and negotiate with the seller, figure out who's going to pay for these items. Also, you can also get a renovation loan. That's another thing. Even if you're buying the house, and let's say some of these items are needing repair, especially with the government, we can get you a renovation loan, right? You can get a renovation loan. What that means is the handrail that needs to be put in, the lender can actually arrange for a loan for that to be done. Might need to be re-underwritten, but the fact is it can be done. And then sometimes if the repairs are too significant, like there's maybe oil tank underneath the ground in front of your house that you didn't know about, then, or something that the appraiser picked up that has to be done that you don't want to be done. Like sometimes there's a extension on a house, or somebody's done some work, or I had one deal where we had sounds simple, but there was a shed that was built in the back of the house. Question is, who's going to knock this shed down? Because it was hazardous. This shed was there, but it was falling apart and it was dangerous and it was a hazard. And the appraiser said, hey, that has to go. Who's going to pay for that? That could be a deal breaker. Sometimes you're just going to walk away and let it be. Maybe not for a shed, but that happens. Okay, let's move right along. How long does a home appraisal take? Typically, an appraisal, from my experience, it would take about 10 days, 10 business days, right? 5 to 10 business days. So during the appraisal process, the appraiser has to go to the house that you're buying. That's the home inspection. So you may order the appraisal on a Monday. He may not get into that property to do the actual inspection and take the photographs until Thursday, Friday. So that right there, that's 5 days gone. Then the appraiser has to go back to his lab, his office space, where he's going to take those pictures and create a document, 30, 40, 50-page document. And that's called the appraisal. Has all the data in there about the neighborhood, the house, houses that are similar. And that's what you're paying for, the document. That document is called the appraisal. And that could take about 10 days. I estimate 10 days. But if you put a rush on it, you pay a few extra dollars, the appraiser can probably get out there in 24 hours and have that delivered to you, hopefully within a week, maybe sooner. So it really depends on the appraisal complexity and the appraiser, the appraiser's, how many appraisals he has on his desk. Also, a lot of these guys are very busy. And of course, the travel distance to get to the property. So who orders the home appraisal? The lender is the one who orders the home appraisal. Okay, so if there's a mortgage involved, the lender will order the appraisal. And there's a law now that requires that the lender not just order the appraisal, but they have to order it through a third party. It's called an appraisal management company. So the appraisal management company will hire the appraiser, and then the appraiser goes out. Another question, do I still need a home inspection? That's an important question. The home inspection is different than the appraisal. The home inspection is done by a home inspector who's approved by the state that you're buying the house in. And also the appraiser is also licensed by the state that you're buying the property in. Do you need a home inspection? I always recommend you get a home inspection. The home inspection usually should come before the appraisal, because the home inspector is the one who's going to walk you through the house and teach you everything about the house. The appraiser is not there for that. The appraiser's job is only primarily to tell you the value of the house. And the goal is to see whether or not this house is worth what you're paying for it. It is not a home inspection. And so while the appraiser may see some things that he might draw concern, sometimes an appraiser will point out something that looks like mold, but he'll also state that he is not a mold inspector. While he might think that's mold, might not be, but he recommends a mold inspector go out to the house. But he will tell you he's not an inspector, and that's a very important distinction there. But for your protection, I always recommend the home inspection. Many assume an appraiser is the same, an appraisal is the same thing, but it is not. So I just wanted to reiterate that. So let's recap. All right. So it's been a great conversation. I just want to show you some of the things we went over. What is a home appraisal? We discussed that. How much does a home appraisal cost? We talked about the cost. We've talked about what if the appraisal comes in low? How does the appraisal process work? How appraisal required repairs will affect your transaction and your purchase. How long does the home appraisal take, and who orders the home appraisal? And of course, we now know that a home appraisal is not an inspection. So there's no cost to sit down with a real estate professional. Like I said, I've been doing this 20 years. All right. This is not an offer. This is an educational event here provided by the Center for Home Ownership and Community Enterprise, which is a non-for-profit, non-governmental agency. And I'm honored to be here to talk to you today in my capacity as I'm a mortgage loan originator with Arlington Financial. I've been originating loans for over 20 years and also a licensed realtor. And I love educating home buyers. So I'm really thrilled to be working with the Center for Home Ownership and Community Enterprise to provide you with the information that you need to achieve your goals. And if you have any friends, family, co-workers, you know where to refer them. There's no cost to sit down with a professional and learn what you need to know, the things you need to know. The only challenge that we find sometimes is that these professionals that we sit in front of, they're very important, they're very busy, and they work on commission, and they don't often have all the time in the world to tell you all the things you know. So that's why we're bringing this information to you, so you can make better choices for you and your family and live an independent, dignified lifestyle, and of course, gain wealth in our community. So if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them anytime about buying homes, setting up a business, lifestyle, living a greater, better life. And I just want to say thank you for joining me today. And I look forward to seeing you on our next event, our next workshop. We'll be hosting more and more as time goes by. Thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful day.